Hi, welcome back to Gaming for Gamers. So here we are back in London, and you may not know it because this area looks a bit nondescript, but actually we're not that far from the Kennington Oval, which you may know if you like cricket or sport in general. But anyway, that's not the point of today's video. What's the point of today's video? So I'm going to combine two topics that I was going to make separate tiny videos about into one, not that long video anyway, but it's about trust. And the two things came up individually in things I was thinking about making videos about, and I decided they weren't really things that I needed to make a whole video about, at least not at this point, but I'd make one video that kind of combined the two. So one thing I've seen come up recently, it's kind of tied into all these wokeism things and how gaming review sites review games and whether you can trust reviewers, and I've seen it come up before. It's not a new thing. I think I've even made a video about it before. But it's, can you trust review sites, and do they purposely exclude certain games when they make votes? Do they purposely exclude talking about certain games because they don't want to, because they don't want to give them good reviews? Do they purposely avoid talking about certain games, so they don't want to give them bad reviews if they're connected with the publishers, etc, etc. So all I can say from what I've seen, the evidence I've seen from different sites, big ones like IGN, etc, and different reviewers, and if they're individual reviewers I'm not going to name them, but is that there's obviously evidence that some game reviewers are tied up with certain publishers, certain games, certain platforms, and possibly, and I've seen evidence to say definitely, some of them omit things about certain games because they know that that's their bread and butter, that's their publisher, that's their game that they're involved in. And I know that sometimes it's been shown that they also omit things that are about games that they don't want to review negatively, but they know they're bad by someone they support as a publisher or developer. And also I've seen that games that are not that great have been supported by people who have kind of praised up the supposedly good parts but not mentioned the bad parts. Also with the bigger sites, there's obviously it's been noted, IGN is one that's come up where they've purposely excluded certain games. They've talked about the best games of 2024 and different awards, and they've excluded mentioning certain games because they don't fit into their kind of aesthetic of what the kind of things they want to promote is, and again that's not really trustworthy. Also I think it's obvious to everybody, and that happens in all walks of life, the more successful you are, if you're a game reviewer site, a game reviewer who's got hundreds of thousands of followers, you will get freebies. I mean, we know lots of people get free codes to review games, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you state it before you review the game, and as long as you give an unbiased view of the game. But then of course the further you go, you're going to be invited to demos, you're going to be invited to early testing, you might be invited to some of the promotional things, given promotional things. So I think it's part of the world in general that the more successful you get, the more tempting it is to be biased. I think some of the things I've seen are people who are biased because they have their own view of what they want to review and how they want games to be, and that's back to that wokeism thing, where they don't want to support games that they don't think are woke enough, which is a different thing. But certainly as far as individual reviewers and not game review sites, I think that it is going to be people who are tied in to certain consoles, to certain companies, to certain studios, either because of freebies and things they've been given, or just accidentally because they're so used to supporting that console, that format, that game, that studio, that they kind of get lost in the fact that they can even make bad games and they can't kind of see the wood for the trees. I'm not sure how much of it is intentional. I've certainly seen things that I think are intentional. I don't know how intentional because I don't know any of these people, but I've certainly seen things that I would say are intentional, but equally some of them may just be people who just get lost and they don't really know. But yeah, you need to definitely be able to trust the people who make reviews of anything, of any product, and I think that it's disappointing that some of these sites don't kind of realise that. They haven't kind of clocked that people are going to notice that they're supporting certain games for certain reasons, not talking about other games that they may have involvement with, or omitting games for their best of games because they don't think they're woke enough or whatever it is they want to be. So I think it's also treating consumers and gamers as if they're stupid, because of course people are going to notice these things. And that ties me into the next part, which is another part of unfairness and can you trust things, and on a different topic completely, but again about the same thing. I read, and I couldn't quite believe this, but it's just beyond belief, that the developers, Fantastic Games, who made the scam game the day before, which we probably all know about, I'm not going to go into the whole history of that, but they made a game that was the most wished list game on Steam, and it was often thought not to be a real game, and when it came out, what did come out was rubbish, and they quickly withdrew it and they were booted off, and they just ran away and closed the game down very quickly. I think it was in one day or something. So and they obviously got money for pre-orders and they got money out of that, but with the Kickstarter they got a lot of money out of that. Where the money went I don't know, but it didn't go into the game. But that's a whole other topic, and you can see loads of videos about that with people who have reviewed it much more thoroughly than I will. But I was shocked to see that they're doing another Kickstarter. Apparently they've slightly changed the name of their company, and they've made this a different kind of game. I've seen some of the gameplay. It's a very simplistic kind of game compared to the day before, but I think it's a bit of an asset flip, to be honest, but I can't say for sure. But the funniest thing is that they've actually put like new company values, like we will tell the truth and we will be honest, and things that you would hope that anyone in any form of life would be, and not just game developers. And to be honest, it's not only insulting, it's almost beyond insulting. It's almost like hysterically funny that they think that soon after, it wasn't like a tiny game that was exposed as being a scam. It's like the biggest scam of the year, the biggest scam maybe in the decade or ever. And they were very rude and arrogant about what they did as well. So you can't believe that this soon afterwards they would dare to not only try and make another game, which is insulting enough, because do they really think anyone's going to trust them after what happened last time, but actually dare to go on Kickstarter and try to raise money from innocent people, because everyone on Kickstarter won't know all about this, and why would they? And it's insulting and ridiculous. In fact, I don't know Kickstarter's rules, I don't know how that works, but you would hope, obviously not, but you would hope that Kickstarter would realise they had connections, and it's the same people who have just because you change your name. That's what companies always do when they want to relaunch and scam people. So just because they relaunch under a different name, you'd hope that Kickstarter would see that or find that out now and boot them off, because it doesn't look good for Kickstarter to have people raising money who then scam everybody and then try and make exactly the same type of product, i.e. a video game, and try and do it again. But obviously not. Maybe they will. I don't know how Kickstarter work like that. I'm not a Kickstarter person. I just know that they might get funding for games. But so there are two, like I said, two different parts to this video. One is about gaming reviewers that you can't trust, and the second is about game makers and developers that you can't trust. And it just seems nowadays, what with game reviewers and game makers that you can't trust, not counting the ongoing thing with woke games and all the games where you've got Sweet Baby pushing stuff into games, you've got content that you can't trust, and you've got game promises you can't trust, and you've got how a game will turn out where you can't for 1 minute trust that the developers are doing what they think is best for the game. They're just sticking their own woke message in there because Sweet Baby or some other activists have told them that's what they need to do. So you really can't trust a lot of gaming, a lot of people connected with gaming, and it's really bad. I mean, it's bad when you can't trust AAA game makers not to just make out rubbish games. It's bad enough when they make a rubbish game like Redfall and it's just not very good. But when they make games and make the characters ugly, and they're making games with messages just to get them out there because they want to push their message, that's worse, because that's not even sincerely trying to make a game that just fails. And then you've got reviewers you can't trust, and you've got game makers raising money on Kickstarter again that were complete scam artists. So it's a hard world in gaming. Hopefully some of this woke backlash now will or the backlash against woke, I should say, will cut down some of the wokeism in games. I don't know if it's going to affect the game review channels. I've seen there's a little backlash against IGN about the way they not supported Black Myth Wukong and other things, but I don't know how that's going to affect them. They're a long-established channel, and I don't think the people who are at Fantastic Games care one shit what anyone thinks, because if they did, they wouldn't have done what they did already, and they wouldn't be trying to do it again. So they've got no shame. But I think the pity is that a lot of people who go on Kickstarter, or who just layman who looks at video reviews, they don't know the history. They don't go through all the video channels talking about the problem with reviews from different sites, or why people might be biased. They don't know whether these Fantastic Games have made games before that were scammed. They just see a game on there with a company name and think, okay, let's support that. And the same with reviews. They don't go into all the backstory of why these reviews. They're not even aware of the fact there's all that possibility with reviews online for games, and they just think, oh, that's a review, that game sounds good, or that game must be bad, it's not in their top 20. So it's a bad situation. I think some of it's getting a little bit better with the backlash against the wokeism in games and stuff, but the fact that, like I said, that Fantastic Games can start again and they have no shame and they're allowed to, I think is just evidence that unfortunately, if people can pull the wool over your eyes, or push out rubbish, or scam you, or do what they want in gaming especially, more than almost any other media, they will do it. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching Gaming for Gamers, and as usually it started raining, so take care for now.